So now that Nintendo's big 2023 game release, known as Tears of the Kingdom, is officially out and in the hands of players, we know the game's doing extremely well. It sold over 10 million copies in just 3 days, according to Nintendo themselves. And I think it's fairly safe to say that this could be the biggest game release of 2023, period, not just for Nintendo, but from any other company. It is interesting though, when you stop and think that the Switch has been around for a full 6 years, we are in the 7th year of sales, and we also have a very strange release schedule where if you've looked at years prior on the Nintendo Switch, we always almost knew 3 to 5 first-party major Nintendo published titles that were ongoing in development and that would be releasing within some kind of 6 to 12 month period. And in today's video, I want to explore Nintendo's 2023 games release schedule, all of the possibilities that we know to be out there, both officially and unofficially from Nintendo, and have a broad conversation on where as Nintendo Switch fans should be setting our expectations when it comes to new software releases from Nintendo in 2023. What's up, nation? Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification if you haven't already. And as mentioned, guys, today we are talking everything to deal with Nintendo Switch and 2023 software releases, because while we've had a massive success hit game like Tears of the Kingdom officially out there and playable in all of our hands, I am still enjoying every minute of my playthrough of that game. You do have to wonder, as we get closer to the summertime of 2023, what to expect from here. Because if you look around at the gaming industry as a whole, you might notice that Sony has announced their major presentation for the year, a games showcase that will be happening this week in May. We know that Microsoft has their event lined up for June, and both of those events will set the floor for what the rest of the year and even into early 2024 looks like for these companies. And of course, in traditional Nintendo fashion, we don't get any kind of official confirmation of a direct presentation until just a day or two maximum before it happens. But there is also a lot of rumor mill speculation talk coming from some very credible names like Andy Robinson and Jeff Grubb, who would have connections on things going on in the background as far as game releases, and they're both saying that they don't expect anything to take place in the way of a traditional mainline summer direct presentation from Nintendo, at least in the month of June. And that's historically when we would see Nintendo hold it, because if they skip the month of June, we're into July at that point. We're getting a little bit close to that September time window where they always put on a September direct, they always put on a February direct. At least that's how it's been more often than not over the last few years. And while June was once one of those dependable, reliable direct presentations where we would learn about more of their games release schedule, that is not looking near as solid this year, especially considering that last year in 2022, when many expected them to hold some kind of summertime direct, they chose to do a mini partner showcase instead. And those are events where, yeah, you'll learn about new Nintendo Switch games, but it's not going to be anything from Nintendo themselves in terms of a first-party published title from Nintendo. Now, what do we have on the Nintendo Switch release schedule officially right now? Well, you can go over to their website directly and actually see the Nintendo release schedule that still includes Tears of the Kingdom. Funnily enough, at the time of filming, that's already out, but it's still on their roadmap of games. At one point in time, they even updated this because it used to just be the game. Then now, for some reason, the Nintendo Switch Pro controller and the carrying case and even the OLED console was on there for a brief moment. And then you scroll down past that and you have July 2023 as the next month that we should be expecting some kind of new Nintendo software. And what do we have? It is Pikmin 4 out July 21st. And interestingly, even though it's not a Nintendo published title as it's Disney Interactive, Disney Illusion Island is also on their roadmap for July 28th. As long as I've been keeping track of this official website, I've never seen them include a non-first party published Nintendo title, but that's what they're doing right now. And part of it could be just for the fact that this website doesn't look completely blank when you go to it. Now, Pikmin 4 could be viewed as somewhat of a big release for Nintendo, but it's definitely more towards a niche audience that I'm expecting this game to hit somewhere in the 2 to 5 million range. 5 million would really be a stretch, but it's possible. It's not an impossible task, but it's also technically a smaller release than a Kirby, a Mario, a Donkey Kong, and Animal Crossing. Not their big name franchises. Pikmin 4 is there for Pikmin fans, and yes, because it is selling on the most successful successful Nintendo console pretty much of all time period, especially from a software perspective, since they've sold over 1 billion pieces of software on this thing. That is still just one release that we know of over the summer, and at that point we will start to ask, what if anything does Nintendo have lined up for their holiday? Because so far we know to expect Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLCs 1 and 2 released over the fall and the winter time, and we could even be talking about Tears of the Kingdom DLC potentially in that same similar window, although it very well may not hit until early next year. But what is Nintendo going to market to us to sell during their holiday season? Well, that's where you have to have the Metroid Prime 4 conversation, because it's not entirely off the table that that game doesn't release this year. It's the only other official piece of software we know is in Nintendo's pipeline in terms of Nintendo Switch game releases, and we don't even know that it's for sure coming out for the Switch. It very well could be a next-gen console exclusive or a launch game that transcends both generations, so kind of that Twilight Princess or Breath of the Wild type of launch where it comes out on the old system from Nintendo and the new one simultaneously. But while there are some rumors and speculation floating around online suggesting that that could be a 2023 holiday release and that it actually could be done, meaning the game is finished, ready to ship, and ready to go, we also have not even seen a single glimpse of that game, the world it has to offer, what type of graphical style is being used. We haven't seen anything other than the splash screen logo and the announcement that it was rebooted in its development back in 2019. And that alone gives me some pause on whether or not we would see Nintendo treat that more like a Legend of Zelda type of game, where we get a few different glimpses of trailers at various different directs to get us hyped up, and that they give it at least some kind of 6-month marketing ramp to really push off the Metroid Prime name as heavily into the minds of consumers as they can. We saw Prime 1 Remaster Shadow drop. That was a surprise announcement at the February Direct. We could still see Prime 2 and 3 come. They may or may not, depending on who you listen to online, but I do think that we could still see those games potentially shadow drop at upcoming potential directs, and then 6 to 9 months after that is when we would see the announcement for a Prime 4 release date, and at that point we might be talking about new console hardware. But Nintendo has to have something up their sleeves for the rest of this year. I fully expect a traditional mainline Nintendo Direct to take place in the month of September, but I'm not completely sold on the idea that they will for sure be holding one in June, and that begs the question, is Nintendo really going to let Tears of the Kingdom carry them through the summertime with the addition of Pikmin 4? And that's the only games we're going to be talking about playing until something shadow drops at a September Direct and we get a little bit of a clear picture of what the rest of 2023 holds for us. They want to sell something big in the holiday window, whether there's new hardware announced this year or not. And I do think that new hardware, while it might not be revealed this year, I think we're right around the corner from figuring out what it is, and I do think Nintendo has that in their minds whenever they talk about game releases, and that's likely why we are not seeing a lot of focus on the rest of this current generation of Nintendo Switch games. We might get a ton of ports and remasters, but we might not get those big Donkey Kongs and Marios of the world until that's ready to sell on new hardware. All of that said, they need something big for a November holiday time window release, so the big elephant in the room is whether or not they drop new hardware or announce it, because even if they just announce it this year and it's sold springtime of 2024, we at least have that in our heads of, oh, that's the reason we're not going to get a big AAA first-party Nintendo title over 2023, because they're reserving a lot of this new big stuff for the next-gen console. And then again, all of those rumored ports and remasters, F-Zero GX, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, Kid Icarus Uprising, maybe even Prime 2 and 3 in the conversation, would kind of pad out the rest of the current model Switch's life cycle. You could even throw Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD into that bucket and potentially carry us through the rest of the holiday season just fine. But the point is right now, as Nintendo fans, we are really going to be entering into interesting waters, because until Nintendo announces some kind of direct presentation or some kind of showcase to hold off new announcements that they do to reveal their major new software, we really will not know whether or not 2023 will go down as a heavy release year for Nintendo Switch games or one of the lighter years, albeit with with one of the best games of all time, which is Tears of the Kingdom, it could still be a very light release schedule when it's all said and done if Nintendo doesn't start announcing games sometime soon. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video what you personally believe around Nintendo's 2023 software lineup from here. Do you think there's a reason that we know so little about the roadmap that they've officially communicated to us? Do you think that Metroid Prime 4 is actually the holiday season game and could come out on the current generation Switch this year, and that's what the behind the scenes plan is? Or do you think that we actually get new hardware announced at some point this year, at which point the marketing will start to ramp up for the launch games on that, and that's when we see the Marios and the Donkey Kongs? Or do you think that the Switch has longer than anybody is realizing, even though it's already the longest traditional home console we've seen from Nintendo in terms of not knowing what the successor is and not even having any kind of a clue on when they might announce it? Do you think that there is a AAA mainline 3D Mario game and a AAA Donkey Kong game somewhere in development right now that will still actually come out on the current hardware today and not be some kind of launch window game for the new platform? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around this topic. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.